It is my final progress report that was written by Professor Hubert Devonish on the 10th of May. And I subsequently signed it on the 11th of May. Student had originally intended to focus on transcripts of the Tivoli inquiry using an experiment to triangulate findings. She decided to shift focus with my approval. Student restructured study, produced a very detailed experimental design, and implemented same to collect the bulk of the data required for her study. Impressive progress. Excellent. Student to continue. These were Professor Devonish's exact words on the 10th of May. This is Exhibit JM2. On the 11th of May, Prof. Devonish sat down in his office on that same day and he wrote his famous May 11th, 2017 letter, where he told the university, for the first time since 2004, he told the university that I was not competent to complete any form of research in linguistics. Research is not static. You go where the data leads. In the words of Professor Hubert Devonish, you follow the data, which was what I did. So I had written to Professor Hubert Devonish for approval to modify my research, to include a new research direction, new data, new plan of analysis. He had given that approval in the email thread dated August 6th to 8th, 2016. His exact words were, when I presented my new research thrust to him, his exact words were, "You have become quite the researcher. I will arrange blah, blah, blah for you to, as a part of your JLU duties," because at that point I mentioned I was employed to the JLU to complete his research, and that would have taken some time. So he would make arrangements for this to be so. And he said, "You might very well be able to incorporate it in your study." So I received approval from Professor Hubert Devonish to modify the thrust of my research. And the final document I want to draw your attention to. It is my final progress report that was written by Professor Hubert Devonish on the 10th of May. And I subsequently signed it on the 11th of May. So my research at this time would have been modified, and I would have presented my research to Professor Hubert Devonish because we were having challenges. He had grown increasingly disrespectful whenever he would communicate with me. And it is not a case where I wasn't doing my job. In fact, I created the research single-handedly. All Professor Devonish had to do was to type, "Yes, you have my approval." Or to sign a piece of paper, "Yes, you have my approval." There was nothing that he had to do. He did not have to stand behind me with a whip to say, "Do the work." I did not miss any deadlines. I went for consultations religiously every single Friday between summer 2015 and December 2016. Every single Friday, unless there was an emergency on either side or there was a public holiday that would allow the university to be closed. Throughout this time, there is never a bad report. There's nothing written. There is no warning. There is no reason to say this child is not doing her work. This student is not doing her work. There was no reason for reprimand. I had never been reprimanded. I had never been warned. Every document that I have read so far throughout this video indicates that he considered my work and my worth to be admirable. He considered me to be intelligent, creative, and adaptable to change my research when required. in order for improvements to be made. These are Professor Devonish's exact words on the 10th of May. This is Exhibit JM2. Student had originally intended to focus on transcripts of the Tivoli Inquiry. You saw that in the character reference letter from the 18th of April, 2016. Student had originally intended to focus on transcripts of the Tivoli Inquiry using an experiment to triangulate findings. She decided to shift focus with my approval. Student restructured study, produced a very detailed experimental design and implemented same to collect the bulk of the data required for her study. Impressive progress. Under the word progress, the quality, the extent of this progress. They had excellent, very good, and poor. Professor Hubert Devonish ticked excellent. Below progress, the university had a recommendation. 3 options: student to continue, student to be warned, student to withdraw. Prof. Devonish ticked student to continue. So an academic relationship from 2004 to 2017. This academic relationship covered a 3-year undergraduate program, an 18-month Master of English Language program that was mixed with finalizing exams and 40% research papers. So I had to create several research papers in English, in linguistics, to complete that Master of English Language program. The Master of Philosophy leading to a PhD in linguistics program. Prof. Devonish was my research supervisor. So either he was my lecturer, my program coordinator, or my research supervisor at the undergraduate level and the graduate level. And this relationship started for my undergraduate program began in 2004. This relationship ended in 2017 when I told Professor Hubert Devonish that I no longer desired to be supervised by him because he had no manners. And his interactions with me were tantamount to verbal, mental, and emotional abuse. And as a result, I was going to write to the university and ask them to appoint me another supervisor. After that conversation, on the 11th of May, Prof. Devonish sat down in his office on that same day and he wrote his famous May 11th, 2017 letter, where he told the university, for the first time since 2004, after all of his letters and recommendations and A's that I had earned from the courses that he taught, he told the university that I was not competent to complete any form of research in linguistics. All these documents were filed within the court system, not only on this affidavit, on this exhibit sheet, but on others. In my particulars of claim, filed the 14th of December 2017, on page 1.5, it clearly indicates that the defendant, Professor Hubert Devonish, has sought to discredit the analytical ability of the claimant, Julie Malcolm, by deceiving the University of the West Indies, and in effect defamed the claimant's character in the eyes of the university and other professionals within the academic space. So from the get-go, the breaches to the Copyright Act were not the only breaches that I was concerned with. I was also gravely concerned with my character. The University of the West Indies, based on how they supported Hubert Devonish and ignored my complaints and ignored my cries for help, it is evident that they have no desire to have me complete this PhD that I single-handedly created and Professor Hubert Devonish stole and used defamation as the vehicle through which he would steal the research. Because think about it. He could not go ahead and publish the same research that I am publishing. He wanted it for himself. And he knew that if he allowed me to select a new supervisor, I would go ahead and publish said research before him, and he would have no access to it because he would have no access to me. I would not be consulting with him on a weekly basis. And so the only way for him to walk away with my research is to kick me out of the program and prevent me from entering any other program. So he had to speak to my competence. So 2004 to 2017, that would be what? 13 years, 3 academic programs, 1 undergraduate and 2 graduate programs, where there is no indication, no complaint, no warning, no grade below a B+ directly from Hubert Devonish. All of a sudden, 24 hours after he wrote this progress report, he wrote this in this. 24 hours after he wrote this progress report, where he said, impressive progress, excellent, student to continue. And I want to draw your attention to the fact that he mentioned in this, I created this very detailed experimental design so I could triangulate my findings. It means that I would be using multiple sources and doing a comparative analysis with all the sources combined to arrive at the best possible result. If my research is designed using the approach of comparative analysis, triangulation of sources, there is no way Hubert Devonish can tell you in his May 11th letter that I am just taking the word of one random police officer and using it. And that's dumb, and he thought it's dumb, and I couldn't understand otherwise. His words in his May 11th letter could not possibly be true based on my actual research that's detailed in my 28-page analytical plan that is also filed in the court system and included in my particulars of claim, page 2, item A. As a document on which heavy reliance would be placed. In addition to that, JM11, that popular document that keeps going missing, whether I try to collect it physically from the court office or I'm sitting in a hearing and Judge Vaughan Smith is declaring that the document is nowhere to be found, even though Hubert Devonish's attorney has it as a copy and I have a copy. The judge can't find it, never seen it. And it's on all sorts of exhibit lists. So documents that I have mentioned, that I have shown to you, clearly indicate what Hubert Devonish thinks about me and has thought about me since 2004. All these documents were compiled by me and filed in the court system, either through my then attorney or through another bureau. They're all there. How is it possible that Judge Vaughan Smith would examine all these documents and come to the conclusion that I do not qualify for protection under the defamation laws of Jamaica, the Defamation Act of 2013, simply because I'm a student? Isn't that discrimination? Hello, my name is Julie Malcolm, and this is my story regarding defamation of character by my University of the West Indies research supervisor, Professor of Linguistics Hubert Devonish, and the extent to which a Supreme Court judge of Jamaica, Judge Vaughan Smith, acted with loyalty toward Professor Devonish and blocked my right to protection under the Defamation Act of Jamaica.